Hello and welcome back to the Daily Word, a ministry of Redeemer Bible Church. It's great to be back with you today for another look at Luke chapter 13. So today we will be looking at Luke 13 verses 22 through 35. And as always, if you haven't read that passage yet, go do that now, hit pause. We'll wait for you and you can come back. Let me give you a summary even before we begin. The gate, or the way of salvation, is narrow. But today I'm excited because we get to see how Christ tenderly laments for the lost. There's so much here for us to learn about Christ-like behavior, being more Christ-like as we see the lost world around us. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I pray today's time together is encouraging, but encouraging in the sense that it propels us toward a tenderness and a grace toward the world around us. So stick with it and let's work through this together. Our intent today really is meant to shape our focus and our understanding of the heart of Christ. And so that's what we're going to call this, is the heart of Christ is. And we can break this down to a little bit of an outline if you want, if that's useful for you. But we're just going to identify it as we walk through the verses together. So what is the heart of Christ here as we look at what's going on? Verse 22, Jesus was teaching. And so what I actually put this under is point number one. The heart of Christ is intentional. It is intentional. Jesus was teaching. Why? Why was he taking his time to teach? He had other things to do. Well, Jesus taught the gospel. And Jesus taught to make disciples. Remember Matthew 28, making disciples by teaching them to observe all that he has commanded. But then we find something else. Jesus taught to save, right? So he's teaching the gospel. What's the point of teaching the gospel? Jesus taught to save. Suddenly, this little verse has a lot of deep meaning, right? We see Jesus teaching to save. This is our good shepherd seeking the lost. Seeking the lost as he made his way through towns and villages. He was taking his time. Again, he had other things to do. But he continued teaching. And what was he teaching? He was teaching the gospel. He was teaching about himself. And so that shows an intentionality on the part of our good shepherd. An intentionality to save. Okay? His direction toward Jerusalem was also intentional. Intentional to save ultimately, right? The work he was bound to do in Jerusalem. So the heart of the shepherd is intentional. Then we see the heart of the shepherd is truthful. Look at verses 24 through 30. Jesus didn't sugarcoat the truth here. The gate, or the way of salvation, is narrow. And he said it like it was. Many will not enter. There are those who Jesus calls evil or workers of evil. So in his truthfulness, he's also warning. He's giving warning. And by the way, what is the reason we warn people of harm or doom? Why do we do that? Isn't it because we care for them? Right? That's the purpose of a warning, that we don't desire their harm or doom. Otherwise, warnings make no sense. If I don't care, why would I warn you not to do something? Now, think of that as you see Jesus warn people throughout his ministry, not just here, but throughout his ministry. Sometimes even the most forceful warnings have a purpose to save. Think about that. The purpose that Jesus had to save would often come through warning. Okay? So, number 3, the heart of Christ is bold. The heart of Christ is bold. Verse 32. With divine authority, Jesus shows that submission to government and leaders only goes as far as it doesn't interfere with God's authority and will. Jesus basically says here that I have a course to run and nothing will stop me from doing it. Nothing will deter me. And that course, remember, was his Father's predetermined will and purpose to deliver him over to death. Think of Acts 2:23 or 4:28. That was his Father's plan and purpose. And we can remember, I mean, that is done in love, and we'll see that momentarily. Then the heart of Christ is tender. Verse 34. Such a sweet place. Jesus himself equates his heart to a mother hen gathering her chicks under her wings. And reflect on that a moment. I really want you to reflect on this a moment. This is precious and powerful. And if we miss this, we miss the reason we ourselves are saved. Think about this for a second. It is the desire on the part of Jesus. Get this. It is this desire that he has to put us under his wings that saves us. That he has that drive, that purpose for us. That's how he sees us. So while he's talking about the children of Jerusalem, there is a picture here that he's exposing his heart, his tenderness toward us, that we have, as Christians, we have been gathered under his wings. This is an attribute of Christ. But remember this, he is the direct representation of his Father. So what we see here is the Father's love that we see in John 3:16 or 1 John 4:10. This is the Father's love. And Jesus is saying it in a way that's so profound, I think, and tender. Now, if you want to park somewhere in Scripture for a while in prayer and praise, this is a great verse, Luke 13:34. But look at the context of these tender words. These chicks are the children of the city. I mentioned that a moment ago. But for the parents, the fathers, there is total condemnation. Verse 35, behold, your house is forsaken. So total condemnation. So as I said, these four truths, let's go back over them. So the heart of Jesus is intentional, it is truthful, it is bold, and then we just saw it is tender. Now, we could make much more of the heart of Christ, absolutely, but I'm just looking at the passage today. So we could definitely see making a case for Christ as judge in these verses, but we aren't called to that role in someone's salvation. So what's cool about this is that these are attributes that we can lean into, that we can pursue, intentionality and truthfulness. Sorry, I keep having to look at my notes. Truthfulness, boldness, tenderness. These are communicable attributes, meaning that they can be communicated. We can take part in these attributes of Christ. And we can seek all those things. So, thinking of these four Christ-like characteristics, let me give you some questions just to consider. Where would those close to you feel you are growing the most? As a Christian, I'm speaking to you as a Christian today. Those close to you, where would they affirm that you are growing the most when you think of intentionality, truthfulness, boldness, or tenderness? Through prayer, which of these areas convicts you the most? So in your own heart, when you think of these things, remember, these things come out in all of life. They come out in our relationships. They come out in our workplace, marriage, parenting, all of those areas. And so what stands out to you as an area of needed growth? But notice how Jesus married them all together perfectly. Do you struggle to be tender when you're being bold? Do the words of your mouth to others reflect Christ's heart? And do the words of Christ's mouth reflect your heart? I just twisted that around a little bit. So in all these ways, we're looking at this because we desire, when we are called, to be more and more Christ-like. And so that's where I want to take us today. So use these questions to consider prayerfully as you go through your day. And remember, if you're a Christian, consider the heart of Christ that gathered you under his wings. Oh man, that's just too good to even fathom, that he gathered us. And if you're not, if you don't have that relationship with Christ, if you don't see him that way, if you don't have that hope, if the gospel seems foreign to you, and the things I've talked about today or any other day, would you please reach out to us? You can go to our website at redeemeraz.org or reach out to the church some other way through social media or phone. We want to have a conversation about the gospel of Jesus Christ, our great hope in him, that you would know that hope as well. So please do that. And to all of you, thank you for joining again. It's been great to work through this with you, and we'll see you again tomorrow.